Good day to all students of BA24 Organizational Behavior. Let us continue our discussion on our topic in personality and values. So last meeting we discussed personality and its impact sa organization and in the study of organizational behavior. Today we will be discussing values and work values and how it affects our study in organizational behavior and even the management of human resources, and of course, the application of the different OB concepts that we are studying here in this subject. Okay, so it is undeniable that the study of work values is beneficial to HR practitioners, managers, business owners, and even the organization as a whole. Work values and preferences directly relate to work attitudes, work outcomes, and even organizational outcomes. In fact, work values are a vital element of job satisfaction and employee motivation. Okay. So, by knowing and understanding values and work values and preferences of employees, we could increase organizations' ability to meet the needs and desires of their human resources while promoting a favorable and employee-friendly working conditions. There are a lot of studies na nagsasabi that there is a correlation, okay, between the level of job satisfaction, performance, and total organizational effectiveness. So the concept of work values and preferences have been theoretically linked to employee turnover. So therefore, values and work values hold power to influence critical factors in retaining employees. And we know that one of the individual differences na meron ang mga individuals is itong differences in values or work values. So employees with different values may enact different behaviors to achieve their work goals. Okay? So always remember that one of the factor that determines our actions, okay, our behavior is our values or our values. Okay? So we act, we behave according to the values that we have. So in this topic, we will be discussing how values shape many of our work-related behaviors. Okay, but before that, we have first to define values. Values represent basic convictions that a specific mode of conduct or end state of existence is personally or socially preferable to an opposite or converse mode of conduct or end state of existence. As you can see from the definition here that convictions, that is that specific mode of conduct, okay, so it somehow dictates our choices and our behavior. And values contains also a judgmental element in in what individual carry as an individual ideas as to what is right, good, or desirable. So at some point, we are using our values to determine what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is desirable. So values tends to be relatively stable and enduring. It's like personality, values can also be relatively stable and enduring. But it doesn't mean that it cannot be changed. It can be changed just like personality. But it would take also years to and pwede rin mabago based on experiences or consequences of actions. Okay? So now, why do we study values? Bakit importante ang values? Because values lay the foundation for our understanding of people's attitudes and motivation and influence our perception. And just like what I have mentioned a while back na yung yung behavior ng isang tao can be understood based on their values. Okay? Their attitude can be understood by understanding yung kanilang mga values. And even yung motivation nila, we could determine uh, or we could explain yung kanilang motivation based on the values that they possess or that they have. Okay? And even our perception, what you value, okay, affects how you perceive things, objects, situation, and even phenomena. Okay? And all of us here, we have preconceived notions of what ought and ought not to be. Lahat naman tayo dito, meron tayong mga non-negotiable sa buhay or meron tayong mga sinusunod na value system that we use to decide or that we use to regulate our thinking and even our behavior. And sometimes these notions that we have contains our interpretations of right and wrong and our preference for certain behaviors or outcomes over the others. Okay? So as a result, values cloud objectivity and rationality because we are now uh, using our values to uh, to explain or to use it to show or to follow kung ano ba yung gusto nating ipakita ng mga thinking, attitude, and even yung ating behavior. So therefore, they influence attitudes and behavior. For example, bigyan ko kayo ng example. Okay, ako to. For example, ako, okay, I believe in, for example, ako, no, I enter an organization with a view that allocating pay on the basis of performance is right, while allocating pay on the basis of seniority or yung katagal mo na sa serbisyo is wrong. So kapag nalaman ko na yung organization, okay, na sinalihan ko will reward or reward seniority, not performance. How will I react if I find out that the organization that I've just joined rewards seniority and not on performance? Well, likely I will be disappointed, and this could lead to job dissatisfaction and a decision not to exert a high level of effort because, di ba, sayang lang naman, hindi naman kahit magpagod ako rito, kahit pa maging top performer ako dito, I will not be rewarded because in this organization, okay, they are not paying on the basis of performance but based on seniority. So probably I will not exert high level of effort because it's probably not going to lead to a more money anyway. So makikita natin dito, nag-iba yung aking attitude and behavior because hindi nag-align yung aking values doon sa values ng organization or hindi na-meet yung values ko doon sa pinapatupad na policy ng isang organization. But pagbabago ba yung aking attitude and behavior if my values will align with the organization's pay policies? Most likely. Okay, so if they are rewarding people based on performance, okay, mag-iiba ngayon yung aking behavior. I would probably be more, I will probably be exerting much effort in order for me to be rewarded. Okay? So makikita natin dito ngayon how values could affect our attitudes and behavior inside an organization. Okay? So let us define naman itong work values. Work values are an employee's personal convictions about what outcomes one should expect from work and how one should behave at work. Okay? So just like what I have mentioned, values is a central construct in career decision making. So napaka-importante na ma-meet itong mga work values ng mga workers inside the organization. Okay? So another definition is outcomes people might expect to obtain through work includes a comfortable existence with family, security, a sense of accomplishment, and self-respect, social recognition, and an exciting life. Okay? Could also be defined as the ways people think they should behave at work. That includes being ambitious, imaginative, obedient, self-controlled, and respectful to others. And lastly, work values are general and long-lasting feelings and beliefs people have that contribute to how they experience work. Okay? So, yun ang definitions. Now, why are work values important for understanding and managing organizational behavior? Okay, because they reflect work values reflect what people are trying to achieve through in work. Mhm. Uh, Yan yung sinabi ko kanina, if you are able to join an organization, meron tayong mga work values na naka-embed na sa atin na gusto nating ma-achieve sa ating organization. Kaya nga tayo nagtatrabaho at nag-join sa organization na yan because we wanted that these values must be met or achieved through and at work. Okay? So bakit importante yan? So if people will not be able to meet what they value in life at work, what would happen? It will impact their attitude and behavior inside the organization. Okay? Katulad ng example natin kanina, di ba? So, yung allocating pay based on performance and allocating pay based on seniority, yung years of service lang instead of yung productivity and other tangible factors. Okay? So if those are being met, mas na-increase yung job satisfaction, yung level of satisfaction mo, happiness, commitment. Therefore, mas nagiging productive yung isang empleyado. Okay? Or mag-exert siya ng effort. Okay. So in the workplace, meron tayong tinatawag na itong sa work values and ethical values. Okay. So, pag sinasabi natin work values, we have yung intrinsic work values and extrinsic work values. So, pag sinasabi natin intrinsic work values, we are referring to values that are related to the nature of the work itself, and extrinsic work values pertains to values that are related to the consequences of work. And another thing that we're going to discuss in here is yung ethical values. So utilitarian values, moral right values, and justice values. Now let us discuss first yung work values. Okay. So pag sinasabi nating intrinsic work values, these are values related to the nature of work itself. So employees who value or who has intrinsic work values or mataas yung kanilang level of intrinsic work values, they are the one who desire to be challenged, learn new things, make important contributions, and reach their full potential on their jobs. So sila yung mga merong higher level of intrinsic work values. So these employees want challenging jobs that use all of their skills and abilities and provide them with responsibility and autonomy, the ability to make decisions while at the same time giving them opportunities for personal growth. And this kind of employees also, they desire adventure, enjoy being creative, or like helping other people. So these are also some of the ways to satisfy intrinsic work values. Okay? Kapag sinasabi naman natin na extrinsic work values, values related to the consequences of work. So employees who value intrinsic work values, they see work primarily as a means of providing economic security for themselves and their families. So these employees value their work not for its own sake, but for its consequences. So example of intrinsic and work values are at the table. So example of intrinsic work values are interesting work, challenging work, learning new things, making important contributions, reaching full potential at work, responsibility and autonomy, and of course being creative. Extrinsic work values focus more on high pay, job security, job benefits, status in wider community, social contacts, time with family, and time for hobbies. Uh, because working is the way most people make a living, there is an extrinsic element to most people's work values. But people may have both extrinsic and intrinsic work values. Of course, yung extrinsic, for example, yung high pay, job security, benefits, all of these things naman, lahat naman ng individual, ng tao, ng mga employees wanted to have this things, high pay, job security, and benefits. But there are instances where extrinsic and intrinsic work values differ in their relative importance from one person to another. So, for example, a teacher who likes teaching but quits her job to take higher paying position as a sales representative for a computer company has a stronger extrinsic than intrinsic work values. But, for example, a nurse, a social worker, or someone who works with people who puts up with low pay and little thanks because he feels that he's doing something important by helping disadvantaged families and their children, doon sila mas merong stronger intrinsic than extrinsic work values. So when making changes in the workplace, managers need to consider yung values ng mga employees. Okay? So for example, if you are the manager that you wanted to try to increase the motivation of computer sales representative by requiring her to call on different types of customers and by giving her the responsibility for setting up the equipment a customer purchase. So the success of such approach to increase motivation, however, depends to the extent to which the changes in the employee's job relates to the employee values. So making the work of the computer sales representative more interesting and challenging may do little to increase her motivation if yung empleyado na yan ay meron siyang strong extrinsic work values. So, mahirapan ka. So, how do you make her more motivated? So, you have to provide, kung mataas ang extrinsic work values niya, you have to increase, okay, the amount of incentives, the amount of financial rewards to be given sa kanya para mas magtrabaho pa siya ng mas marami and for her to work harder on the job so that he could receive or she could receive additional financial compensation. So employees who are extrinsically motivated may be much more responsive to financial incentives such as bonuses and job security rather than to the changes in the work itself. Okay? So, because work values reflect what employees are trying to achieve through work, they hold the key to understanding how employees will react to different events in the workplace and to understanding and managing organizational behavior. So, therefore, managers need to be especially sensitive to the work values of their subordinates when making changes in jobs, in working hours, and even other aspects of the work situations. So that's the work values and the two examples of work values, which are intrinsic and extrinsic work values. Now let's proceed to ethical values. So what is ethical values? Ethical values are one's personal convictions about what is right, what is wrong. Ethical values help employees decide on the right course of action and guide their decision making and behavior. Of course, lahat naman ng empleyado, no? And the organization expects that all people, all members of organization must display ethical values. So values that are right and aligned to human rights. Okay, and we behave in such a way that We follow rules and regulations, we follow the law, and we don't perform acts and activities that are unethical. Okay? So, what are the examples of ethical values? So, we have here utilitarian values, moral rights values, and justice values. So, each kind of ethical value should be considered when evaluating whether or not a course of action is an ethical one. Okay. So, even with these values as guides, employees are often faced with ethical dilemmas because the interests of those who might be affected by the decision are often in conflict, and it is not always clear how to determine. For example, how to weigh the benefits and costs of different groups to determine the greatest good, which rights and privileges must be safeguarded, and what is fair or an ethical decision. Okay. So if we look into the three examples of ethical values here, pag sinasabi natin utilitarian values, dictates the decision should be made, generate the greatest good for the greatest number of people. Okay. Moral rights values indicate that decisions should be made in ways that protect the fundamental rights and privileges of people affected by the decision, such as freedom, safety, and privacy. And lastly, justice values dictate the decisions that should be made in ways that allocate benefit and harm among those affected by the decision in a fair, equitable, and impartial manner. So lahat naman tayo, no? Meron tayong ethical values. So we develop our own individual ethical values over time based on influences from family, peers, schooling, religious institutions, and other groups. So as employees, these ethical values guides our behavior in the workplace. So minsan nga meron tayong mga tinatawag na code of ethics. Okay. So ano yung mga code of ethics? The set of formal rules and standards based on ethical values and beliefs about what is right and wrong that the employee can use to make appropriate decisions when the interests of other individuals or groups are at stake. Example of code of ethics ay ito. Okay. So for example, ako I have my code of ethics. These are the following values that I want to possess and exhibit: integrity, caring, and excellence, attitude, and courage. So I'm making sure that in my decision making and in everything I do, and in most decisions that I would take, there must be, or these values must be exhibited and considered. Okay. So organizations today adhere to strong ethical values and still these values in the workplace. Okay. Another values that we have to consider is yung ating tinatawag na generational work values. Okay, we all know that inside the workplace, meron tayong apat na generations. Okay? So we have yung tinatawag na baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. So you belong into Gen Z. Okay? So ang sinasabi kasi dito ng mga experts, they maintain that each cohort, yung mga apat na nakita ko kanina, has been formed by distinct historical, social, and cultural events. Thus, each generation meron silang mga unique preference and they share specific thoughts, values, goals, ambitions, attitudes, and behaviors. So, minsan, yung mga management experts, okay, they study the values of these generations, okay, so that organizations could meet yung mga values and preferences nila. Okay? Ang sinasuggest kasi ng generational theories that events and changes experienced during one's adolescence or youth are particularly memorable. And thus, these are being retained by individuals and become imprinted on a generation to affect yung kanilang values, attitudes, and preferences. So, yung generational theory builds on the evidence. Sinasabi nila that an age cohort who experiences and remembers similar events will develop similar values, attitudes, and expectations. Okay? So by understanding the work values of the workforce in each organization, this will help the company meet employee needs and wants to promote favorable working environments, thereby leading to increased performance and workforce productivity. And by identifying and understanding also values of employees, this will help managers maintain a competitive edge amidst the imbalance between supply and demand in employment. And if they were able to meet the values of employees, it will have a positive impact on employee work outcomes and productivity. So we have yung apat na yan, ano? So we have here the boomers, Xers, Nexters, and the Gen Z. So nakalagay dito ngayon yung mga dominant work values nila. Okay? So yan, yung mga work values ng baby boomers. We have here the Generation X. Okay, iba rin yung kanilang priority in terms of work values. Millennials, you are not a millennial, you are Gen Zs. So iba rin, ano? So at the same time, nakalagay dito, they may clash with other generations over work attire and communication. They also like feedback. And we have here the Gen Z. So iba rin yung kanilang work values. So how do we link individuals' personality and values in the workplace? So individuals' personality and values should match the organization if they want to increase level of job satisfaction, commitment, employee engagement, which will result in productivity, positive work outcomes, and organizational outcomes. Okay, so meron tayong tinatawag dito na theory on person-job fit. Okay. So sinasabi ng theory na to that satisfaction is highest and turnover is lowest when personality and occupation are in agreement. Okay? So ang sinasabi ng model na to is that kapag nag-match yung values ng organization tapos yung values ng isang individual, okay, there is higher level of satisfaction. Ano to eh. Okay? So kapag nangyari yan, pag yung job ng isang tao, yung values ng isang tao congruent sa values ng isang organization and even doon sa trabaho niya, okay, they should be more satisfied and less likely to voluntarily resign. Okay? Compared to yung mga incongruent, yung kanilang values sa values ng organization at dun sa kanilang trabaho. Okay. So the evidence supports that the value of assessing vocational interest in the selection process with a match between interest and job requirements, predicting job knowledge, performance, and even low likelihood of turnover. Another is yung person-organization fit naman. Okay. This essentially argues that people are attracted to and selected by organizations that match yung kanilang values and they leave organizations that are not compatible with their personalities and values. So following the guidelines on person-organization fit, sinasabi dito na if you're going to hire new employees, you should identify kung yung employee yan would fit to the organization's culture, which should in turn result in higher employee satisfaction and reduce turnover. Okay? So, sinasabi dito on the PO fit or person organization fit has also looked at whether people values match the organization's culture. So, this match predicts job satisfaction, commitment to the organization, and low turnover. Okay? So let us summarize. So bakit importante na malaman natin ang values ng isang individual? Because they underlie and explain attitudes, behaviors, and perception. So Knowledge of the individual's value system can provide insight into what makes the person's tick. Kasi, just like what I mentioned kanina, mas mataas ang level of performance and satisfaction if yung values ng isang organization at saka yung isang individual would fit. Okay, and also the person who places great importance on imagination, independence, and freedom is likely to be poorly matched with the organization that seeks conformity from its employees. So, kapag ikaw ay isang manager, you have to seek job candidates who do not only have the ability, experience, and motivation, but to perform also, but also a value system that is compatible within the organization. So, dapat merong job fit and person organization fit. Okay? So, that's the discussion on values.